It's funny, I was going to call in this morning and talk about drug courts, a topic that's come up recently and one I've done a bit of research on, but in between that I saw the story about our new Minister of Justice or Public Safety, or whatever the title is now, about the workers' comp, and I'm just absolutely blown away.
Well, I think it's very disappointing, Andrew, if you heard me with Trish, to know that we have both sides of the coin. And I would suggest some of the staff members who have all the best intentions, professional people at workers' comp, if we have the employers say the premium's too high and the system is broken, injured workers say consistently the system is broken, that to me is all the red flags we need to know and to recognize that the system may indeed need some adjustment and new legislation to govern workers' compensation, because it's not working.
I don't disagree with you at all on that, and I guess I can speak from my experience with it since I've been elected, because one of the things we do as MHAs in many cases is represent injured workers, our constituents. I actually just did one last week in Corner Brook. And, you take these individuals, I mean, they're having a tough time. In many cases, they've been off work for a while. They have reduced pay, and they're injured, so their life has changed. And, they go into these hearings, and, they lay out the case, and, they've already been through a significant period of time when it comes to just the doctor's appointments and travel and just the whole rigmarole that goes with it. But that, again, the hearing I did last week, you lay out, your case, and the commissioner says, look, I'm going to have a decision within 60 days. We have had difficulties in the past, no doubt. This is not the first time we've seen cases go past the 60 days. Actually, we ask questions about it in the House. I think some are more diligent than others, perhaps. So I've had some good experience lately with certain ones. But in this case, when I see one decision there from June 12th that there's still a case from June 12th that there's still no decision, that's absolutely shocking. Yeah,
it is shocking, and and that's only because we're looking at timelines and how it has not accommodated or lived up to the actual, not spirit of the law, the actual law. And then, if you look at the personal circumstance that person finds himself in, and actually try to put yourself in their shoes and in their bank account and in their anxiety-riddled moments, it must be horrendous.
And there's two things that I think I took from this that sort of amaze me, or I guess I think are relevant to point out. First of all, the defense of everybody else is doing it, so it's okay. I'd love to try that one in court sometime and see how it works with a judge, because that's just not acceptable. You can't say, well, everybody else is not living up to the legislation, so it's okay for me. For that to come from our new Minister of Justice, it's not acceptable.
Well, it is, and I only tried. The point I was trying to get here is had Judy Manning done the job so where we could reflect back to past performances of the commissioner, say she was not up to the task, she couldn't do the job, X amount of cases were done in X amount of timeline, but it's not the case. So I think I'm just trying to make both points. Manning was no better or worse than the rest of them, and we have had a long list of people not being able to live up to the letter of the law when it comes to the timeline. So that's a big, big problem.
Yep. And maybe one of the positives out of that is now that she's in a cabinet position, she can bring her experience to help fix the flaws in the system that have caused her not to do her work. Maybe that's how it's going to work. Hopefully there will be changes as you've suggested. The other issue I have is that this is a continued lack of accountability. I mean, just the comments inside here, I look forward to continuing to execute in a similar manner, and I'm comfortable with how I discharge my duties. Well, how can you be?
Yeah.
And again, I keep coming back. This is a point that's been brought up on your show a number of times. When I go in the House of Assembly, hopefully soon, I'm not going to be able to ask a question, and I'm not going to get an answer. And again, this whole I'll answer through the media, that's just not how this works.
Well, it's not good enough for anybody. I mean, we need to have things transcribed and answered so we can reflect on them. We can hold people accountable. One of the clear roles of our adversarial political system is that the opposition parties have an opportunity to speak directly to ministers in the people's house. That can't be satisfied. So I agree, and I think everyone agrees, that she may indeed make herself available at every request, but that's not the same as standing in the House of Assembly and being tested with your knowledge, your understanding, and ability to rebut or offer counterpoint to opposition parties. It's a clear feature of our democracy that won't be satisfied. And I think that's that.
And now that we know that, I believe, the majority of candidates are in place for these, with the two actual, by-elections and the one that's anticipated in Humber East, that's obviously not going to change. So we're going to deal with this through at least one session, maybe two sessions of the House. And when we're talking about a Minister of Justice, a key member of government not being there, not answering, I just think it's a slight to the entire government and the governing party, the PCs. This is the mindset. But again, I'm not saying anything new, but this just adds to it when there's a lack of accountability in the previous year, and that's going to continue.
I don't dispute that at all. When it comes to putting together, compiling the data, the 5-year review, and any potential change in legislation, what ministerial department would that fall under directly? Because
I believe it falls under Service and
I would have thought so, not in Manning's, but she would,
Well, that's one of the things, though. Even if it's not your department, I would assume if you have some experience, that you can bring it around the cabinet table and provide your insight and knowledge. That's what one would hope. Mm-hmm. But again, it remains to be seen. But right now, I think people are upset. I think they're rightly upset. And, I'm disturbed about this news that's come out today.
Well, we'll all keep a close eye on it. And I think that all parties, this is one of the clear opportunities for the all-party committee, because this is not political capital victory or losses available here. These are pieces of legislation that serve best interests. No one's going to be able to campaign on how I'm the one that fixed the legislation. We put an all-party committee together on these types of issues, which don't need ideological bent. They just need to work for all involved, the people working at workers' compensation, employers, and injured workers. Simple as that.
I agree with you completely. This is a chance we all have some experience with this. We can all provide some insight, maybe some expertise. And at the end of the day, you want what's best for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And I think that goes beyond party stripe. And
I think a lot of people listening to the program this morning will agree wholeheartedly. Appreciate your time this morning, Andrew.
Just before I go, a reminder to all the voters in CBS's Advanced Poll Day. So please get out and exercise your right. Look forward to seeing Rex out there.
Well, he's out there banging on doors, as is Mr. Pettin, and I owe the NDP and the fairness of mentioning her name, because I just don't know the woman, so it doesn't stick in my head. But Andrew, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Patty. Take care.
All the best. Bye-bye.